I'm a 32-year-old master plumber who owns a successful business with 15 employees. For years, I have been financially supporting my younger sister Amelia through college, proud to help her achieve her dreams. Then last Christmas, I discovered I was being excluded from our family gathering because she told everyone I was just a plumber and would embarrass her in front of her new boyfriend's wealthy family. That day changed everything, and I made the difficult decision to cut off the $175,000 law school fund I had set up for her. Before I tell you how I went from being my sister's hero to her ATM, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe if you have ever had to teach someone a tough lesson about respect. 10 years ago, when I was 22, our parents died in a devastating car accident. Amelia was only 16 at the time. We were both in shock, but I knew immediately I had to step up. There was no question in my mind that I would take custody of my sister rather than let her go into the foster system or burden our aging aunt. This meant putting my own college plans on hold indefinitely. I had been accepted to State University for mechanical engineering, but that dream would have to wait. Instead of campus life, I began apprenticing as a plumber under my Uncle Frank, who had been in the trade for 30 years. The hours were long, the work was physically demanding, but it paid well enough to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. Many nights I would return home with my hands raw and my back aching only to stay up helping Amelia with her homework or listening to her process her grief. Amelia was always exceptionally bright. Even through her grief, she maintained a 4.0 GPA at the private high school our parents had enrolled her in. The tuition was steep, nearly $15,000 a year, but I was determined she would finish there among her friends and supportive teachers. I picked up every extra shift and weekend job I could find. Some months I survived on ramen noodles so Amelia could have proper meals and the occasional new clothes or school supplies. When people ask why I made such sacrifices, the answer is simple. I promised our parents I would look out for her, and beyond that, I believed in her potential. Amelia had always dreamed of becoming a lawyer like our mother, passionate about using the legal system to help people. How could I not support that dream? As the years passed, my career progressed faster than I expected. I earned my journeyman license, then my master plumber certification. By 27, I had gained enough experience and saved enough capital to open my own plumbing business. Starting with just me, and a Van Jordan's Plumbing Solutions grew steadily through word of mouth, and my reputation for honest work and fair pricing. Today, I employ 15 people, including 3 apprentices I am training, just like my uncle trained me. Meanwhile, Amelia thrived academically. She graduated high school as valedictorian and secured a full academic scholarship to a prestigious university for her undergraduate degree. The scholarship covered tuition but not living expenses, books, or her laptop. I happily covered these costs, encouraging her to focus on her studies rather than working part-time. We celebrated every achievement together, from her acceptance to the honors program to her induction into the pre-law society. When Amelia was accepted to law school during her senior year of college, I decided to make her biggest dream possible. I had been living well below my means for years, saving aggressively while my business grew increasingly profitable. After consulting with my financial advisor, I set up a dedicated account with $175,000, specifically for her law school expenses. The day I told her about the fund, she cried and hugged me tighter than she had since our parents died. It felt like all the sacrifices had been worthwhile. Throughout these years, we maintained a weekly dinner tradition to stay connected despite our busy schedules. Sometimes we would go to a restaurant, but more often I would cook at my apartment, or she would try out new recipes at hers. These evenings were sacred to me, a chance to check in on my sister's life and maintain our bond as the only immediate family we had left. During her final semester of undergraduate studies, Amelia met Harrison. He came from a family of lawyers and judges, with connections throughout the legal community. His father was a partner at one of the most prestigious firms in the city, and his mother sat on the state Supreme Court. From the few times I met him, Harrison seemed nice enough if somewhat reserved around me. That is when the subtle changes began. First, Amelia started canceling our weekly dinners, citing study sessions or events with Harrison. When we did meet, She would spend much of the time on her phone, or talking about Harrison's family connections and their vacation homes. Once, when we ran into some of her classmates at a restaurant, I noticed her hesitation before introducing me. "This is Jordan, my brother," she said quickly before changing the subject with no mention of my business or accomplishments. I made excuses for her behavior, telling myself she was just busy and stressed about finishing her degree. I remembered how intense the pressure could be at that age and tried not to take it personally. Besides, I was busy myself with a major contract for a new housing development. Between managing crews and meeting with developers, I had plenty to occupy my thoughts. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs. Amelia was not just busy, she was actively distancing herself from me and what I represented. But sometimes when you love someone, you see what you want to see. I saw my successful sister on the path to achieving her dreams, not someone growing ashamed of her blue-collar brother. As December approached, I looked forward to our annual family Christmas gathering at Aunt Martha's house. This tradition had become even more important to us after losing our parents a chance to feel the warmth of family during the holiday season. For weeks, I planned my gifts carefully, wanting each one to be meaningful. For Amelia, I had found a beautiful leather briefcase from a high-end brand perfectly suited for a future lawyer. I even had it monogrammed with her initials and a small message inside. "From fixing pipes to fixing laws. I am so proud of you. Love, Jordan." 2 weeks before Christmas, I called Aunt Martha to ask what I could bring for dinner. I had become known for my homemade pecan pie, a recipe passed down from our grandmother that I had perfected over the years. "Oh, Jordan, Aunt Martha," said her voice unusually hesitant. "I thought you knew about the change of plans." My stomach dropped instantly. "What change of plans?" There was a long pause on the line. "Honey, I thought Amelia had talked to you. She organized something different this year." The conversation that followed revealed the devastating truth. Amelia had arranged a Christmas gathering that deliberately excluded me. When I pressed Aunt Martha for details, she reluctantly forwarded me the group text conversation where it had all been discussed. My hands shook as I read Amelia's words. "Harrison's parents are coming, and they are really important people in the legal community. Jordan is just a plumber and talks about toilets and pipes at dinner. It would be so embarrassing. We can do a second Christmas with him after the holidays." Just a plumber. The words burned into my brain. 10 years of sacrifice reduced to just a plumber. 10 years of putting her needs first categorized as an embarrassment. Most painful was seeing how the other family members had readily agreed to this arrangement. Cousins who had happily eaten my food and accepted gifts from me for years responded with, "Makes sense," and "No problem." Only Aunt Martha had expressed discomfort, suggesting that excluding family at Christmas seemed wrong. Amelia had quickly dismissed her concerns. "Jordan will understand. He knows how important this is for my future." But I did not understand. Not at all. I tried calling Amelia immediately, but my call went straight to voicemail. I left a message asking her to call me back, trying to keep my voice steady, despite the hurt coursing through me. She never returned that call. Later that day, I saw on social media that Amelia had checked in at an exclusive ski resort in Aspen with Harrison and his family. There were photos of them in designer ski wear, smiling in front of a magnificent lodge with mountains in the background. The caption read, "So grateful to the Williams family for including me in their holiday traditions. Christmas Day was the loneliest I had experienced since our parents died." I sat in my living room surrounded by carefully wrapped presents for family members who had decided I was not good enough to celebrate with them. The briefcase for Amelia remained in its gift box, the personalized message inside now seeming like a sad joke. I had become an inconvenient reminder of a background she was trying to escape my honest work. Something to hide, rather than respect. That evening I drove past Aunt Martha's house. Through the windows I could see the family gathered around the dining table. Harrison's parents were there in their expensive clothes, everyone raising glasses in a toast. I did not stop. Instead, I drove to the cemetery where our parents were buried and sat beside their graves in the cold December air. I told them. I really tried to give her everything you would have wanted for her. In that quiet moment among the gravestones with snow beginning to fall around me, something fundamental shifted inside me. I had spent a decade, putting Amelia's needs above my own, believing that was what it meant to be a good brother. But for the first time, I allowed myself to consider whether my support had crossed the line into enabling behavior that dishonored not just me, but the values our parents had raised us with. As I drove home that night, the Christmas lights blurring through my tears, I knew something had to change. Not out of vengeance, but because continuing as we were would ultimately hurt us both. The week after Christmas passed in a fog of hurt and confusion. I went through the motions at work, checking job sites and managing my crews, but my mind was elsewhere. At night, I would sit with a notebook writing down all I had done for Amelia over the years, trying to understand where things had gone so wrong. My best friend Miguel came over for New Year's Eve, finding me still in this state of distress. After hearing the full story, he delivered some hard truths. "Jordan, you have been living like a monk to put your sister through school," he said. "When was the last time you took a vacation? Bought yourself something nice? You live in a basic apartment while owning a successful business because every extra dollar goes to Amelia." He was right. My apartment was small and sparsely furnished. My work van was 8 years old. I rarely bought new clothes unless the old ones were unwearable. Meanwhile, Amelia had a beautiful wardrobe, the latest electronics, and regular trips with friends that I had funded without question. "You did not fail her," Miguel continued. "You gave her a privileged life despite tragedy. But somewhere along the way, she started seeing your generosity as an entitlement rather than a gift." The following Monday, I met with my financial advisor for our quarterly review. When we discussed the law school fund, he hesitated before speaking. "Jordan, I need to say something as your friend, not just your advisor. This law school fund represents years of your hard work and sacrifice. Most business owners your age are building their retirement accounts or investing in real estate. You have put all that on hold for your sister. Are you certain she appreciates what this represents?" His words hit home in a way nothing else had. The fund was not just money, it was years of my life converted into opportunity for Amelia. Opportunity she now seemed to value less than the approval of her boyfriend's wealthy family. That weekend I visited our parents' graves again. This time, instead of feeling only grief and confusion, I found myself asking a different question: what would you want me to do? Now I thought about how our father, a respected high school teacher, had always emphasized the importance of respect and gratitude. How our mother, though, a successful attorney, had never looked down on anyone based on their occupation. They had raised us to value character above status, hard work above privilege. After much reflection, I made my decision. I transferred the law school fund to a new account that Amelia could not access. I did not eliminate the possibility of still supporting her education, but I removed the guarantee that had perhaps allowed her to take my support for granted. She would discover this only when trying to access the funds for her first tuition payment months away. Amelia returned from her extended holiday vacation, acting as though nothing had happened. She texted about meeting for coffee like we had not spoken in weeks, and she had not engineered my exclusion from the family Christmas. I agreed to meet, curious whether she would acknowledge what had occurred. She did not. Instead, she chattered about the amazing ski resort, the connections Harrison's father had made for her with law firms, and her plans for the upcoming semester. Not once did she mention Christmas or ask how I had spent the holiday. I maintained my composure, letting her continue with this charade while I processed my own emotions. I was not ready for confrontation yet, still hoping she might show some awareness of how her actions had affected me. The breaking point came 3 weeks later when Amelia called to ask for extra money. "Harrison invited me on his family's spring break trip to Belize," she explained excitedly. "But I need about $3,000 for the excursions and spending money. The law school fund does not unlock until May." "Right. Can you advance me some cash?" I invited her over for dinner that night, deciding it was time for an honest conversation. She arrived looking beautiful and confident, immediately pouring herself a glass of wine from the bottle I had opened. As we ate the pasta I had prepared, I finally asked the question, "Why did you exclude me from Christmas, Amelia?" Her expression flickered between surprise and discomfort before settling into something more calculated. "It was not personal, Jordan. Harrison's parents are connected to all the top law firms. I need to make the right impression. if I want the best internships. You understand, right? Actually, I do not, I replied, keeping my voice calm despite the anger building inside me. What I understand is that you told our family I am just a plumber who talks about toilets and would embarrass you. She had the decency to look somewhat ashamed, but quickly recovered. You know how these wealthy legal families can be. They are snobby about trade work. I was just being strategic. Strategic, I repeated. Is that what we are calling it now? Because from where I sit, it looks like you are ashamed of me and the work that has funded your education and lifestyle. That is not fair, she protested. I appreciate everything you have done, but you have to understand the world I am entering. Connections matter more than anything. I nodded slowly, taking a sip of my wine before responding. I have been thinking a lot about connections lately. Family connections. The connection between actions and consequences. The connection between respect and support. Something in my tone made her pause. What does that mean? It means I decided that if I am just a plumber whose work is too embarrassing to acknowledge, then maybe my plumber money is not good enough for your law school. Her face paled. What are you talking about? I moved the law school fund. You will need to find another way to pay for your education. What followed was exactly what I expected. Disbelief, then anger, then manipulative tears. She accused me of punishing her for one mistake, of destroying her future, of betraying our parents' memory. When these tactics did not work, she switched to threats. I will tell the entire family you abandoned me, she said. After everything Mom and Dad wanted for me, you are ruining my chance at following Mom's footsteps. Feel free to tell them whatever you want, I replied. I have already sent everyone the screenshot of your text calling me just a plumber and too embarrassing to include at Christmas. Aunt Martha was particularly upset to learn how you really feel. This stopped her cold. Several family members had indeed contacted me after receiving those screenshots, horrified by her behavior and apologizing for their own role in my exclusion. This is not fair, she repeated, her voice smaller now. What is not fair, I said gently, is spending 10 years sacrificing everything for someone who sees you as an embarrassment. What is not fair is being treated like an ATM instead of a brother. What is not fair is forgetting where you came from and who helped you get where you are. Before she left, I made one thing clear: this was not about punishment, but about respect. Our relationship needed to be built on mutual respect, not just financial dependence. The money remained set aside, but access to it would depend on rebuilding what she had broken between us. You cannot buy respect, Amelia, and I cannot support someone who does not respect me or the work I do. The choice about where we go from here is yours. After our confrontation, Amelia and I did not speak for 3 months. According to Aunt Martha, who had become my strongest ally in the family, Amelia had tried to paint herself as the victim, but found little sympathy once the full story emerged. Even our cousins, who had initially agreed to exclude me, were now uncomfortable with her behavior. During this time, I focused on moving forward with my own life. I expanded my business, hiring 2 more apprentices and investing in new equipment. I purchased my first house, a modest 3-bedroom with good bones that needed some work, which I happily did myself. There was something therapeutic about fixing things with my hands, making spaces more functional and beautiful, just as I had always done professionally. I also began seeing a therapist, something I had resisted for years after our parents' death, Dr. Comini. Lawson helped me recognize the unhealthy dynamics I had allowed to develop with Amelia, how my guilt over our parents' death had led me to enable behavior that ultimately hurt us both. I learned that true support sometimes means setting boundaries, not just giving handouts. On a rainy Tuesday in April, Amelia showed up unexpectedly at my office. She looked different, humbler somehow, with less makeup and simpler clothes than I had seen her wear in years. My office manager asked if I wanted her sent away, but I agreed to see her. Harrison broke up with me, she said without preamble once we were alone in my office. His parents decided to fund another law student they met at Christmas, someone whose family has better connections. I nodded, waiting for her to continue rather than offering immediate sympathy. This was her story to tell. I have been doing a lot of thinking, she continued, fidgeting with the strap of her purse. About how I treated you. About how I started seeing myself as somehow better than where I came from. She looked around my office, taking in the awards and certifications on the wall, the photos of completed projects, the whiteboard filled with job schedules. I was so worried about what Harrison's family would think about you being a plumber that I never stopped to think about what that said about me, about who I was becoming. It was the most honest I had seen her in years. I gestured for her to continue. I developed this shame about our background, she admitted, like I needed to hide parts of my life to fit in with these wealthy people. But Harrison's family saw right through me anyway. His mother called me an opportunist. Can you believe that? After all my efforts to impress them? And what do you think about that, I asked, keeping my expression neutral. I think she was right, Amelia, said her voice breaking. I became exactly what she accused me of being, and I hurt the one person who has always been there for me in the process. We talked for hours that afternoon, more honestly than we had in years. I shared how her actions had felt like a betrayal, not just of me, but of our parents' memory and values. She acknowledged the privilege she had enjoyed. Because of my sacrifices, privileges she had begun taking for granted. I do not expect you to fund my law school after how I treated you, she said as our conversation wound down. I have applied for loans and scholarships. I might need to defer for a year to work and save money, but I will figure it out. Her willingness to take responsibility impressed me more than any apology could have. After careful consideration, I made her an offer. The law school fund still exists, I told her. But things will be different this time. I want to create a formal agreement with conditions. We worked out those conditions together. She would work part-time throughout law school to contribute to her expenses, maintain her grades above a certain threshold, and most importantly, volunteer with a trade education program that helped disadvantaged youth learn valuable skills like plumbing, electrical work, and carpentry. I want you to understand the dignity in all types of work, I explained. And I want you to help others see it too. Amelia agreed readily, seeming almost relieved to have this structure. The entitlement that had characterized her recent behavior had been replaced by a new humility and determination. 6 months later, Amelia began law school with a fresh perspective. Rather than focusing solely on corporate law as she had planned, she developed an interest in construction law and worker advocacy, finding ways to bridge our different worlds. She often called me with questions about contracts or labor practices in the trades, genuinely interested in my perspective. The Christmas after our reconciliation was particularly meaningful. We gathered at Aunt Martha's house, the whole family together again. This time, Amelia proudly introduced me to her new friends from law school, highlighting my business accomplishments, and even soliciting my advice on plumbing issues in their apartments. The genuine respect in her voice when she spoke about my work was worth more than any gift under the tree. That evening, as we helped Aunt Martha with the dishes, Amelia nudged my shoulder gently. You know, I looked it up. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says master plumbers make more than many lawyers, especially in the first 10 years after law school. I might have picked the wrong career path. We laughed together. The tension of the previous year finally dissolved. The lesson had been painful for both of us, but necessary. She had learned that respect cannot be bought, only earned through one's actions. I had learned that sometimes true support means holding loved ones accountable rather than shielding them from consequences. As I look back on our journey, I am grateful for the difficult decision I made that Christmas. By refusing to continue enabling Amelia's disrespect, I ultimately helped her become a better person, more aligned with the values our parents had instilled in us. Sometimes the people we love need to fall before they can truly learn to stand on their own. Have you ever had to make a tough decision to teach someone you love about respect? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more real-life lessons, and share this video with someone who might be struggling with similar family dynamics. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, there is no such thing as just a hard-working, honest profession. True worth comes from integrity, not job titles or bank accounts.